In this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about the Equinox. This specific one is in the beautiful red metallic paint with the traditional black interior, and it also has every available package that you can find inside of the RS. Inside the Equinox, you're going to find either 17, 18, or 19-inch wheels with varying styles depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. So you're going to find 4 different trim levels in the Equinox. It's either going to be the LS and the LT, which are available front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and then you've got the RS or the Premier, which are strictly available all-wheel drive instead. Looking at the wheels inside of this thing, so this is the 19-inch wheel you're going to get standard inside of the RS, and I gotta say, I like the style of it. Really neat, that darker highlight, which is always a nice one. But I mean, realistically, if you're not a big fan of the wheels that come with your Equinox, you could always get something aftermarket, save yourself a couple bucks and get them hydro dipped or powder coated, whatever the case may be. You are going to find the Equinox badge along the body on both the driver passenger side. And this one does have one of the added packages, which is going to give us side view mounted cameras. There's the backup camera and front facing camera, which are going to give us some pretty unique views when you look at that multimedia screen. And it looks really sharp, very high def, which is cool. Now, the side view mounted cameras also give us this really unique split view. So you can see what's going on behind you. So as you're pulling into spots, you want to make sure you're perfectly balanced. You've got that flexibility, which is kind of nice. The LED headlamps here look solid. You're at least going to have LED regular lamps, and then there's LED daytime running lamps, depending on the model that you're in. Overall styling is really nice. Nice metallic highlight along the top part of the grille, blacked out grille along the bottom. And then because this is the RS, you've got that caked right into the driver's side of the grille, which looks pretty sharp. Now this one also has the forward sensing system. But when you get into the Premier trim level of the Equinox, you're also going to find an available park assist. So it'll be able to help you out with parallel and perpendicular parking. It's just that the RS trim level doesn't have that available as an option. And then right above the Chevy badge, there's also the release in order to get under the hood. And it's just on a prop bar. And I mean, realistically, it's a little toasty, but easy enough to get underneath the hood of this thing. And doesn't matter which trim level of the Equinox that you're in, you're strictly looking at this. And it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. Looking at 2022 versus 2023, the engine is the exact same, but there's a slight difference in the power from 22 to 23. So inside of the 2023 model, you're looking at 175 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. That was 170 horsepower in the 2022 model. So I mean, 5 horsepower, you're not really going to notice the difference, but I mean, at the same time, it is nice. There's a tiny little bump. But I mean, relatively straightforward under the hood here. You've got easy access if you wanted to change your oil yourself. Easy access to top up fluids there too. But you want to make sure that you're at least regularly changing your oil and then also regularly maintaining it so that you make sure that your manufacturer's warranty stays intact. So your basic warranty, your 3-year 60,000 kilometer or 36,000 mile, and then your powertrain, you're looking at 100,000 kilometer or 60,000 mile. And then there's also Chevrolet roadside assistance. So if you break down, run out of gas, have a flat tire, need winching, whatever the case may be, you are covered off there. Like this thing, you're spending, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 on the vehicle. Just make sure you take care of it. Filling up fuel inside of the Equinox is also very straightforward, and it's just along our driver's side. Capless system, and it's got anti-siphon technology built in, which is great. Now, it doesn't matter which trim level of the vehicle that you're in, you are looking at just regular 87 octane in order to power this thing up. So that's minimum manufacturer's recommendation. There is kind of the argument, though, of using a higher octane fuel inside of turbocharged engines. It's just that realistically, 87 is all you need to use. And with crazy high gas prices right now, that's all I would recommend in order to get good performance out of this thing. The back end of the Equinox also looks fairly sharp. You've got that blacked out Chevy badge right in the middle. Equinox badge that's blacked out along the bottom left-hand side, and then the all-wheel drive RS badge along the bottom right side of the liftgate. And that same kind of highlights, the same highlights that we saw on the front end follow through back here. So you've got a black part of the bumper in the back that has our reverse sensing system, little chrome highlight, and then body color down under on top of that, which looks fairly sharp. But a few things, you're always going to get the backup camera and the rear wiper inside of this thing too, which is great. And there's like this little spoiler. Now, one really nice thing is that if you're going to be backing this thing up to tow, there also is a tow camera. So there's a mode right through the media screen where you can look down in order to see what's going on as you're backing up. The max towing capacity inside of the Equinox is going to be 1,500 pounds. So it is good for small trailers if you're just going to do a bike rack carrier, whatever the case may be. But you are going to have to jump up vehicle size if you're looking for a little bit more tow capacity. By the driver's door, there's a little switch, and you can adjust that in order to figure out what's happening with the liftgate itself. So you can either have it open up the full way, 3/4 of the way, or you can turn it off, where at that point it moves into a manual liftgate instead. On top of that, when you get into the Premier trim level, there's also the option for a foot-activated liftgate. But you can use the key fob if you wanted to open the liftgate up, and then there's a button just underneath the Chevy badge that you can push in order to bring up the power liftgate. So this is the full length, so that's as high up as it's going to go. But like I said, you can open it up 3/4 of the way, or you can just have it off for a manual liftgate instead. But this thing is actually pretty spacious, which is great. There's also a cargo shade that's available here too. And one really cool thing about the cargo shade is that it's spring-loaded both ways. So as you pop both, you can essentially like block these things in to make it easier to install. And all you have to do to install, you're just going to press one way and then the other, and that like shoots it across, which is kind of cool. There are a few different ways that you can lower the second row seats. So the hard way, if you're in the trunk, is to go inside, and then along the very top, you can drop down this way. Fairly flat fold, which is great. But the easier way to do it is along the right-hand side. So the right-hand side here, there's a little 12-volt power point, but there are 2 individual releases back there too. And the one on the bottom is going to be for the bench on the left side. So you can pull in order to fold that down, and same idea with the right side. You can pull in order to fold it down from the back here too. But I mean, when we lower it, there is a boatload of space back here. And then this one just has the regular carpeted back, but lifting up, there is a little storage area in the back there. And then if you lift the little storage tray up, there's also a mini spare tire. So that's a 16-inch mini tire, and that's going to be standard across the Equinox lineup. You could change it yourself if you want to, but you also do have Chevrolet roadside assistance to get some help if you need it. But it is nice that it's a mini spare tire rather than having an inflator kit. Taking a peek at the key fob for the Equinox. So, Chevy badge along the very back. Along the front side of the fob, you've got lock button, unlock button, remote start, trunk release, horn or panic alarm. So in order to remote start, just make sure that you're locked first, and then you're just going to press and hold. And that started it up. And then you can also just do a press if you wanted to cancel the remote start, which is great. Double press in order to open up the liftgate. But one really cool thing is that if you wanted to roll the windows down using your fob, you could do that. You do have to make sure that it's turned on inside of the media screen. But if it is, you're going to press the unlock button twice, and on the second button press, you're going to hold. And then you can also press the lock button to pause it part way. But watch this. So you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Lock in order to stop it, and then same idea, you're going to double press again in order to continue the cycle. So that is really neat that that's available as an option. But one thing is that it is power down, but it's manual backup again. But it is still nice. You've got that flexibility. Taking a peek at the size of the Equinox. So I'm 6 feet tall. You just kind of see over it. But there is some pretty unique styling along the top there. So you've got your roof rack rails there as well. There are crossbars that are available on top of that. So there's a packaged option you can get for those crossbars, or just do something aftermarket. Some outside technology you're going to find. The side view mirrors do have the option for turn signals. There's a blind spot monitoring system, so if somebody's entered your blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to highlight the orange and let us know that there's somebody there. On top of that, as long as you've got the key fob on you, so you can button press if you wanted to lock the doors, single button press to unlock the driver, secondary to unlock all 4 doors, which is kind of cool. The interior of the Equinox is surprisingly nice. And I say surprisingly because I haven't been inside of an Equinox like ever. So this is actually my first time being inside of one, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. Now this one is the RS, and it's got a few added packages like the leather package, etc., just to give it a slightly more unique look. But I gotta say, I am really impressed with what Chevrolet's done with this thing. Taking a peek along the driver's side door. So this one has a slightly unique stitching, so nice red stitching that follows all the way throughout the steering wheel, and even through part of the dash where it's kind of like mixed in with this interesting like leatherette texture. It's kind of neat, but that follows through like all the way through at the dash on the passenger's side. Looks pretty nice. Back along the door itself, basic unlock lock buttons, all of your side view mirror controls, basic window controls on top of that, little storage cubby, little storage area along the bottom part of the door. Now, taking a peek here. So this is a little switch in order to adjust what's going on with your liftgate. So max means that it's going to be the max height, 3/4 height, or it's going to be a manual liftgate instead. You can hear the beeping going nuts because it's just letting us know through the cluster screen that we've turned the power liftgate feature off. So the liftgate's still going to work, it's just going to turn into a manual liftgate there instead. But got this nice kind of like glossy highlight around the vents, and that's through all of the vents as well. Moving down, a few other buttons, figure out what's going on with the brightness of the cluster screen. You can adjust what's going on with your lamps. I honestly always just recommend keeping it in the auto setting, but you can toggle them off, on all the time, whatever the case may be. It's very straightforward. Now, the steering wheel inside of this thing it's nice. It's comfortable, heated steering wheel inside of this thing, which is great. And that's the same thing with the first row seats. There is an option for first row heated seats, depending on how you have this thing configured. And that's the same way with whether you have cloth seats, leather seats, etc., or if you have power driver or passenger seats. It's ultimately going to depend on how you have it configured. So this RS is fully loaded, and it's an power adjustable driver seat. So along our left side, easily go forwards, backwards, up and down. And like with the seat, as far back and down as it's going to go, I've got 4.5-ish inches of headspace. So a good amount of space. But inside of this one, it's a manual adjust for the passenger seat. And one thing that I love about this vehicle, I was actually really surprised, is just in behind the steering wheel, you've got a series of different buttons on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So the one on the left, you can change between your presets and seek. Along the right-hand side, you can adjust your volume on top of that, which is really nice. And this one has a series of other packages that are available. So you've got the adaptive cruise control system along the left-hand side. Along the right, voice command prompt. You can mute out or answer or hang up on a phone call. And then there's also directional pad in order to move through the little cluster screen. But if you're looking for a walkthrough on the different steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, or the multimedia screen, check down in the description of the video. I've put together comprehensive walkthroughs going over how everything works. But like I said, the steering wheel itself is very comfortable. It's manual telescoping. So just in between our legs there in the center of the stock, we can drop down in order to find that perfect position for us, which is great. This is nice overall. Basic controls for lamps, flash out your high beams, auto beams, and then on the right side is going to be for your front and your rear windshield wipers. The dash, you can see there, great visibility overall. And then this one's the upgraded Bose sound system. So you've got a series of different speakers along the dash, along the door in the first row. So both of them down there as well, which is great. Inside of the Equinox, you are going to find 6 speakers standard, but there is the option for a package to be added on in order to give us 7 speakers instead, and that's 7 Bose speakers. And if you're not familiar with Bose, like their speaker quality is really, really good. And like, especially with the size of this cabin, like it is surprisingly good how good the audio quality is. So I'm just going to go through audio for us right now. But through the media screen, you would have the flexibility of connecting through Android or iPhones to just stream over Bluetooth audio if you wanted to. You've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, and then if you had a USB stick with MP3s, you could also use that in order to stream audio as well. Now, one thing that this media screen doesn't have is the flexibility to display video. And there aren't really many media screens that do. But like I said, you've at least got AM, FM, Sirius XM, whatever the case may be. And then you've also got USB.
I try to pick one thought, have some concentration, and if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
The audio inside of this is outrageously good. Like, amazingly good. And like, I've got the bass cranked a tiny little bit and the treble down a little bit. So that's why it's like car shakingly amazing. But the speaker system inside of this thing is really, really good. So, I mean, if you're an audiophile, like the 6-speaker setup is okay. The 7th speaker is just like mind-blowingly amazing. So you definitely want to look at that Bose system if you like audio. Now this is the optional 8-inch media screen that you're going to find inside of the vehicle. So it's either going to be a 7-inch or this 8-inch screen. It does feature support for wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is definitely a nice thing. But I mean, some basics, you've got some hot button presses to get to media, phone, and navigation. You can easily swipe across to go to some advanced settings. And one really cool thing about the vehicle is that this one has the optional HD vision camera. So you've got your front-facing, rear-facing, you can zoom in if you want to. You can look at your side-by-side view, so it utilizes the side-mounted cameras. There's a hitch view, so if you're backing up in order to tow, we can toggle any of these things on or off fairly simply. Back to your full-screen view instead, or a split view. So you've got a ton of different options that are available, which is kind of nice. Button press to get back home. And that's one neat thing, because whatever setting you're in, you could just press the home icon a few times in order to get back to this main screen instead. But this thing's relatively straightforward. It does feature factory navigation, and it's got pinch to zoom capability. And I mean, you see there, very, very responsive, which is fantastic. Easily recenter, back home instead. You've got a home button, series of buttons in order to be able to change between different presets and things like that. Mute out, basic back button. Auto start stop. So with this one turned on, that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. 4-way blinkers, dual zone climate control. The dual zone climate is optional inside of this vehicle, but this one has the added packages, which does give us dual zone climate. Heated first row seats is going to be available. There would be the option for ventilated first row seats when you look at the Premier trim level. It's just that this one, so the RS, doesn't have that available, but it is there. You've got a series of different climate control settings. Moving down under, series of different power points. So you've got your USB Type-C, USB-A, 3.5mm jack, which is great. And then there's also, 12-volt power point there. And then this one also features an SD memory card slot. So if you do have an SD memory card for maps or audio, things like that, this is available and there is support for it, which is great. There's an all-wheel drive lockout button. So obviously if you were in the front-wheel drive model, this wouldn't be available, but you could lock out to all-wheel drive if you want to. So a big benefit, obviously, during wintertime driving. The beeping that we get as we back up, if that drives you nuts, you could technically toggle it off. But I mean, hold on. As we get closer to the vehicle in behind me here. Oh, yeah, there we go. So you can hear it going there for us. Look at that. Super straightforward. But one thing I like is the shifter inside of this thing, and it's got an actual shifter, which is great. There are plus minus buttons on the outside, but those are going to be for the low gear. So you can't adjust the gear out here. You do have to drop to low in order to be able to flip your gears out that way instead. But still, it is nice. And because this is the RS, you can see we've got a unique RS badge down there too. You've got a series of different cup holders, and then also an electronic parking brake there as well. A little cup holder, and then an armrest, which features a fully removable tray. And then there are a few USB power points in there too. Outside of that, nice and basic. Actually, ooh, there's a little light back there too. Illuminate things at night, which is always nice. Shifting up overhead, there is the option for an auto-dimming rear view, but this one is the manual dimming. Still is nice, it's available there. All of your basic OnStar controls as well, so calling in for help, OnStar, SOS mode. You've got whether or not your lights are coming on with the doors on off, turn your cabin lights on, and then your basic controls for the sunroof. So we're going to do a single button press there. And one thing I love about it is that when you do a single button press in the Equinox, it opens it up, like opens up the whole shade full way. And then single button press, it essentially creates a little vent for the sunroof. Secondary button press, opens it up the full way. Well, not full way, I should say, but it opens it up as far as it's going to go in a single button press. So we're about yay big. in order to be able to open this thing up. So it's a full panoramic, but it does have its limitations for how much of the roof is actually going to open. Still pretty impressive though. It's nice. And then single button press also closes the shade completely as well. I personally, I love panoramic sunroofs. It just opens things up. I usually don't have the actual roof open though, but it is nice that that's available there as an option. There is a sunglasses holder there. Nice. On top of that, so your visor, you've got a business card holder on the outside. Dropping down, there are built-in lights on top of that. And then this thing also extends out to block most of the sun. Hold on, let me get this seat set up for how I'd normally drive. Okay. There we go. All right, so I typically drive like this, and I'd say that probably would block out most of the sun. There's like an inch-ish of space that it wouldn't, but I mean, for the most part, it's blocking out, which is great. You've got assist handles, driver, passenger side too. Always useful, especially when things get a little crazy with this 1.5 turbo engine. But like I said, the styling inside of this thing is good. And even the spacing. Like I said, I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for the way that I would traditionally drive. And then looking at second row leg space, I have a boatload of leg space. So ton of knee space, great amount of foot space as well. Could you fit 3 full-size versions of me back here? The tricky part is definitely going to be whoever's in this middle row. So, the middle seat, I should say. So, I mean, realistically, it still is a little bit tight on my knees in this middle seat, but I still have a little bit of knee space, foot space, which is great. So, I have been in other vehicles before where it does get pretty tight in this middle seat because there's a hump in the middle, but this thing is completely flat, which is great. While the seats are very comfortable, they're locked into place. So we don't have the flexibility to recline them. There's no way to slide them forwards or backwards at all. So they're here, they're locked in place. But some basic highlights back here. There are some cup holders baked right into the seat. You got kids that are screaming at you, but there are anchor points and tethers and things like that. So if you do have front-facing or rear-facing child seats, you're not going to have an issue inside of this thing whatsoever. But there are some base highlights along the door in the second row here, nothing too crazy. There is a speaker back here. And then behind the armrest, there are a few other power points that are available there too. So you've got 2 USB power points, and then dropping down, there's also a 150 watt power point there too. So a traditional wall outlet. There is the option for second row heated seats, and that's when we get into the premier trim level with some added packages. And that's strictly for the outboard seats. So driver, passenger side. This middle seat is never going to be heated whatsoever. Behind the first row seats, there are some pockets behind both the driver and the passenger seats. Up overhead, there are some grab handles on both the driver-passenger side. There's a little hook on both, and then a little cabin control light too. All right. I mean, for what it is, that is a pretty impressive pickup and go. Nice. All right, so adaptive cruise system's going right now as well. I've got it set to the mid gap. So let's shorten that up a little bit. Gap adjustment, gonna go to 1. Yeah. There we go, that's better. That's better. But so I've got it set at 100, but the car in front of me is going a little bit slower than that. So, okay, there we go. So it's sped me back up. There we go, 98, 99. So you can see it kind of moving up and down. Little bit of road noise. It's nothing too crazy, but you can definitely tell there's some road noise here. But I mean, still, like I said, the quality of the car, I'm kind of shocked. The quality of this thing actually really surprised me. Kudos. This is good. Car in front of me is going a little bit slower. They're going 98, so my car is slowing down right now as well. And then if they get out of the way, pick up speed, whatever the case may be, it's automatically going to pick me back up to the set speed again. So this thing, okay, there we go. So road speed now is going to 80. And I wonder, okay, so it's not dropping me to 80. I've got to manually slow down myself. Yeah, nothing wrong with doing it yourself. And that was a look at the 2023 Chevy Equinox, specifically looking at the RS trim level. What'd you think? It's a pretty nice ride overall. I think that Chevrolet did a fantastic job on the vehicle. Like I said, I'm actually kind of surprised at what this thing has to offer. But if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. You can find a build link for this specific vehicle and direct links right off to Chevrolet.com and .ca on top of that. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful, and until I see you next time, take care.